Welcome back to Turning the Mirror podcast. And here at the hot seat is myself, Worth Kaboko, together with Olengo Kwach. And today we are taking you in the terrain of Kenyan politics. And we are focusing today to the presidential candidates 2027. Which one do you know? And let us look and see who will possibly win, their weaknesses and strengths. Start with the strengths to the weaknesses. Let's start with the William Ruto. What do you think about him?
Number one strength is what he, in many occasions, he's been actually downplaying the deep state. In this case, William Ruto, I'd say he's the deep state because he's in power and his people are in power, controlling every entry of any ballot box, any ballot paper, and controlling the narrative. They control everywhere.
He's on watch.
He is on watch.
Yeah, okay.
So that is number one strength. The second strength, William Ruto is an orator. Huyu jamaa anaweza kuambia bwana. He can tell you. And he masters. If he comes to your village today, he'll even master the roads that even the young people from that village doesn't know. He'll master, and therefore he'll tell you everything and you'll wonder. Hey, he knows all that. So he has the memory to master. So he crams and masters all that. So he speaks and is a very serious orator. So he'll tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And at the time you want to hear it the most. And he'll even tell you what touches you as a person. And you'll feel like, oh, then I belong.
So his oratory skills can outdo the narrative that is now here across the country.
Of course, remember when they were campaigning in 2022, he was being put out there as a thief, as someone who cannot lead. Remember, sitting president trying to downplay his deputy as someone who cannot actually deliver. And then their candidate is calling this person a thief. And some of the things people see, and people even put out there, something like Western Hotel, for example, people keep saying, oh, it's on the public land, or how it was acquired and all that.
What can bring
but
him
still
down?
People voted him. Yeah. So there's one thing that can bring him down. He's a liar. And it's like I at times wonder whether he listens to himself after he has spoken. Because he speaks today, it's even displayed on news. Again, tomorrow he speaks about something else. And with those lies, remember with the Gen Z and the millennials now, with the technology, people will keep bringing these lies and everything. Again, the second thing that will terribly bring him down is how he has handled his first term. With all the abductions and all the atrocities that people have witnessed, and even some of his very big supporters now changing and being against him. That will bring down.
What about the wiper man, Kalonzo Musyoka?
Kalonzo's strength is that he has never held one key position of power and misused it. As a vice president, people have no much complaint against him. So he can still speak. And remember when he was the vice president, that is the period when Kenya took off. Yeah? Kenya took off when he was the vice president. Immediately after actually Kenya took off with Mwai Kibaki as the president, and I think Kijana Wamalwa as the vice president. Then after that, now the 2007 elections, when now Kalonzo was also the vice president during the coalition government, Kenya was still growing. So he can use that during campaigns. Kalonzo is not an orator per se, but he speaks truth to power. He only speaks but does nothing. But he speaks truth to power. So if he can manage to speak what people want to hear, then he can be a big force. His strength is the Kamba factor. Because since he started being in politics, more so the big wig in the Kenyan politics, whichever direction he takes, that's where we always see the Kamba votes full and they vote thoroughly. So that is also a strength with Kalonzo Musyoka.
And now people say he's watermelon.
That is now the biggest weakness. That is the biggest weakness.
Na tunataka
Yeah, because people see him as someone who doesn't have a stand. In this instance, he speaks this way. In this instance, he says the other thing. So that the watermelon factor, the watermelon feature that people see in him might seriously play wrong and might downplay his ambitions.
And what about this villager who studied in University of Nairobi? He studied political science and literature. Mr. Rigathi Gachagua.
That alone, whatever you just said is a strength. He knows how to speak. He is also an orator, I can say that.
Sure.
And he has branded himself as a truthful man. So even when he lies, people would perceive that to be the truth. So that is his strength. And having learned literature, he knows how to play around with words and literature and how to drive emotions and all that. So that is a big, big, big win for him, because that is a very serious strength. And the Mount Kenya block, because right now, after being kicked out, it is seen like many people are the Mount Kenya people are pro him. They are kind of leaning towards him. So the fact that he has mastered the point, and he can speak well, and he knows how to push a narrative, and his financial muscle is also a factor.
Yeah, sure.
That is also a factor when it comes to him. But now the weakness is, if at all the court maybe delivers a bad news to him that he was impeached under the good grounds, and that the process was done constitutionally, then he would not be able to run for office. Again, maybe another disadvantage is that many people outside the Mount Kenya region see him as a tribalist, tribal man.
Sure. Yeah. And though he still stays as a threat,
he's a very big threat.
Yeah.
A very big threat.
Yeah, sure.
A very big threat.
Yeah. And now we have experience. Martha Karua, he vied in 2013. He was in this race.
Yeah.
So he has a little of experience. He might come again. He's announced it.
Of course, her strength is she's being, her strength, one of the strengths is that she's being seen as an iron lady. Someone who stands, and when she decides to go for it, she goes for it. She has again been so much with the Gen Zs, and has seriously supported the Gen Zs and the millennials, those who are abducted, those who are arrested during the protests. She has been in the courts on and off. We've also seen her in the Ugandan courts, and that also added her some bonga points, because people could now view her as, if he's championing for rights even outside the country, then she means business when it comes to rights and laws and freedoms. So that one is a strength. But now weakness is that when you even go back home, the ground is kind of slippery to her.
Okay.
Yeah, very slippery. Okay. And then other people also think of her, the role she played during the 2007 elections that put Kenya into the age during the post-election violence. Because remember, Kibaki stole the votes, and this team, actually Martha Karua was part of that team that swore him late in the night. He was sworn in at night, and after stealing votes, and that then made Kenya go into chaos. That claimed several lives.
This race has been about men, and we've never seen a lady on this race since Martha Karua came into place.
If at all women supported women.
I even said addressed her as him. Yeah, so because we used to men being in this race.
Yeah. If at all women supported women, then Martha Karua could be the president, because majority of voters are women anyway.
Yeah, sure.
If we don't even look at the majority in the essence of who registers as a voter, the majority of those who come out to vote are women.
The bulldozer.
So if women could come out and maybe vote for Martha Karua, then he would win. She would win. Yeah.
What about the bulldozer, Fred Matiang'i?
Fred Matiang'i's strength, actually, this is a serious guy. Number one, he's a household name, and many people relate with him. More so, those who are currently, a good number of voters were in school when he was the CS for education. And what he did made both those who were in school then and even the parents kind of tend to believe or trust in the education system. So when he fixed the mess in the education system, fixed whatever was to be done in the ICT ministry, and also came and did some tremendous work when he was the CS for Interior, in as much as he also had his issues then. That alone is a strength, because he would now be coming to speak about what he has done. Yeah, he would be presenting on the table, as a CS of ICT I did this, of education I did this, of Interior I did this, and some of these things are visible. They are very visible, because when it comes to dealing with the thugs, dealing with terrorists, he did that. But then again, what the very same ministries would again downplay his ambitions, because when in the Interior Ministry, he was ruthless to some of those who are opposing the government. Remember the opposition key figures like Miguna. He ensured these people were out. And there are also abductions, and of course we also had extrajudicial killings. There are bodies which were found in River Yala and all that. So with that also playing as a factor, other people might be campaigning on that basis.
And can he build a positive narrative? You know, when he can build a narrative, you know, that can be like nothing to him.
What I know with the bulldozer Matiang'i is that he is also a narrator. Remember, he also did English and literature, and he knows how to speak.
Yeah.
The only problem here is that many people perceive him as someone who has anger issues, because when he decides to go for something, he goes there with all the force. So maybe again, you know, politics, again, with Kenyan politics, what we've seen is that presidency is not given. It is taken.
Yeah, sure.
So I think with that character, that is also strength. You might go there and take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's look into this person who has been fighting for all Kenyans in the courtroom, Okiya Omtata.
Okiya Omtata, the man. Of course, the fight in the courtroom and the fight even on the streets and trying to speak for the weak, speak truth to power, try to also speak for the freedom, that is the strength.
Okay.
Because actually that is why, remember, Omtata did not have that, he did not see it coming. He didn't really plan to run for presidency according to how things were until the Gen Zs spoke out and said, we want Omtata.
Yeah.
So when that started going round, that is when Omtata came. The same way Matiang'i resurfaced when the Gen Zs and millennials, like on Twitter now, the social media, when they started calling them. So with Omtata, whatever he has been doing in the corridors of justice is his strength. Okay. Because he has done that across all the government, with Kibaki, with Uhuru, with Ruto now, and he goes to court even when it means he is going to lose that case. He goes there. And some of the cases he has won has worked well for the Kenyan citizens and worked contrary to the Kenyan government. Okay. So I think that is a big strength. Yeah. Again, another strength that I see with Omtata is that he's a listener and listens a lot before he speaks. And he's someone who is a workaholic, I'd say that. Because how on earth would you sit down with a whole budget, like how our country has been run from 1964 to 2024 with a whole loan, how the government has been taking loan and reduce that to some few pages. You know, for you to do that, then it means you mean business. Yeah. So that is also a strength, because if he sits down to do something, then he does it. Yeah. But now what of the weakness? Omtata, many people see him as a non-starter. Yeah, because he has not been like he has not been out there in the main political positions, like the major ones, like now the president or the deputy president, or even a big or a CS position with much power. Again, he is seen as just an activist, and many people say that activists cannot make good presidents or good leaders. So that might as well downplay his ambitions, if at all he doesn't get the good narrative to drive his presidency. Okay.
Yeah. What about the so-called, he really a Gen Z, Morala Kibaso?
Morala Kibaso. Yeah. I think, I'm not sure, but I think Morala Kibaso should be a millennial. Okay. I don't think if he's a Gen Z. But you know, today in Kenya, everyone calls himself a Gen Z. Because I even saw some news some time back. I think it was in Nyeri. When just someone here around his 40s was saying, sisi kama Gen Z tumeamua. So in Kenya today, everybody calls themselves a Gen Z. But Morara Kibaso's strength, if at all he could continue what he was doing then, when he could go to a place without calling for anyone to support with a budget, without even mentioning that he was going there, and do exactly what he was doing, because he would go where the president maybe had promised some amount of money, or even have said that tushapeana pesa fulani, hii kiwango ya pesa tumepeana place fulani, and therefore it is supposed to build this. Then Morala could go there and look at it, and look at how much have been used, and where that project was, and all that. When he was doing that, that was his strength, because people then were feeling that he's doing the right thing. And by also going there, looking at it, and also breaking down how that money was used, people felt he could maybe lead, and maybe he could do the necessary, until he came now to the public to support the civic education, which is not bad anyway, because anyway, any course needs money.
Yeah, sure.
And moving around needs money. But now when he made it a habit, now calling for it now every now and then,
Okay.
other people felt
Did you
like,
contribute?
of course, the first ones, yeah, the first ones,
Okay.
not the first ones when people still saw the cause as just. So when when people saw it as a tabia, then many people stopped. Yeah. And that is a weakness. Not unless if he tries and then rebrands himself and brings a narrative. Because then many people see today, people look at him and see like he has gained much wealth from maybe the contributions he made. So he have to really drive a narrative and use the powers he have, or maybe he has to really move with speed. Because again, you realize that he had a team when he was starting, people who were even very much well known by the Gen Zs as freedom fighters, the likes of Joshua Okayo and the likes. They left him, you see, and say that he had created another team. So he has to also be very calculative. Yeah.
Oh, sure. What about CJ Maraga? I've seen it online. I don't know whether there are people pushing it or it's just something organic.
Okay, he has not spoken about it personally and said that I want to go for this. But there's this Swahili word that said penye moshi pana moto. Because of late he has seriously been opposing and speaking against what the excesses of the government on his Twitter handle at times when given the mic and all that. So again, by just speaking, and remember he's somebody who is well known. Remember his strength is how he stood firmly with justice. And even the 2017 election, when he took the first ever in Africa, he took back a country to a re-election because the whole bench, like the bench he was leading, saw it wise to do so. And so with that, we even saw people name their children Maraga and all that when that happened. And more so those who were supporting NASA then. So that is a strength. Again, of all the chief justices that have been there, you remember Maraga achieved a lot in the judiciary. And when now the executive was trying to control the judiciary, he was even missing the functions. You could realize that during holidays or during official functions, his chair was just there, but he was nowhere to be seen. So he was trying to ensure that there was that failing and that the judiciary was respected. So with all that and people seeing him as someone who would fight for human rights, someone who would speak, someone who would do the right because he values human rights and freedoms, then that is his strength. But now the weakness is he's never been in any elective position. So with politics and with Kenya, where we have people who speak, wale wanaongea kama Ruto, I think he has to really do his work
He
well.
could be an orator.
But he could also be an orator, and he speaks. And I think the only strength that many people would buy is that having spoken and people saw everything to be truthful. I remember even some of my friends converted to BSDS. Yeah.
Because of
the resolution he made.
Yeah, so that's trust.
So the trust people gained in him, and also when he speaks, people feel like he's saying the truth. That might really help him.
Yeah. What about the silent boy? Ndindi Nyoro.
Ndindi Nyoro is a force.
Yeah.
A force. Because remember, number one, he's someone who is a developer.
Okay.
He has done so much with the CDF and all that. And then he does this without, when you're working, you don't have to be on the media telling people how you're working. People will just know that you're working. And so he has done that. And with that, he has earned respect across, both in the Mount Kenya region and even outside the Mount Kenya region. His strength, the main strength is that people would see him as someone who deliver when he's given that position. So when he works on how he can put out there what he has done as the MP and then try to package it as something he would do as the president, people would buy that. But then now this weakness is that when he was very close to power, either as Uhuru's man and even as Ruto's man, he seriously spoke a lot of nonsense. So when people remember that, it might also work against him. Yeah.
Okay. And what about this person? We are not really sure because it's so dependent with the AUC chairman, the position election. That is just like a week from today. And we might see maybe all over internet, we see the sixth Raila Amolo Odinga. What about him?
Raila Odinga, I don't really see him as a threat. Because I'd say Of course, there are those who still buy his candidature. There are those who still buy the fact that, his strengths are there. Raila is a man who has fought for democracy. He was in the team that was fighting for multi-party democracy. He later tried at all costs since 2007, 2013, 2017, 2022. He has seriously seen and ensured that the judiciary has grown. Because through the court cases and through all that, he has strengthened the judiciary. So if just looking at Raila Odinga, the man, and what he has done, that alone would give him much strength. But again, looking at history, history doesn't lie. If you look at Raila Odinga's support in 97, 202, 205 during the referendum, 207, 2013, 2017, 2022, the support base has been declining. And it has been declining with a reason. Other people see him as someone who they vote for him, but at the end of the day, he will come with the same narrative, nimeibiwa. So that has been making the support base decline. Other people don't even go out there to vote. The second thing that would really work against him is, you see, when the Gen Zs were out there protesting, many people see him as one who crossed over from being silent as how he was advised to be, to crossing over to support Ruto and help him be in power. And so with that, many people today, the young people, millennials and the Gen Zs, majority, not all, majority perceive him as a betrayer. So with that, again, people might as well be campaigning him. Because with that, then people have now started to buy the ideas and the speeches given by Miguna and the likes, who are trying to decampaign him. So today, to be sincere, you see, at some point I was a very key supporter of Raila Odinga. I even knew you know that. But today, to be sincere, decampaigning Raila Odinga is easier, much more easier compared to campaigning for him. Yeah, for him to gain votes and him now being decampaigned and ensuring that he doesn't get enough votes, decampaigning him is much more easier compared to campaigning for him because of a few things that have happened over the years. But again, he's someone you can never wish away because he keeps rebranding himself. When you think ameisha, he rebrands himself and comes back, and when he says, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, sure. That is what we had for you today. And that's just 10 candidates.
Yeah.
And we're waiting to see who is again coming to the limelight that they want to contest for this position. Maybe tomorrow you might get to know that Owoth Kaboko will also be part of that race. Keep connecting to us at Turning the Mirror Podcast, DMP Kenya. Welcome.
Of course, let us know what you think about their strengths, their weaknesses, according to you. I know you support one of these people or someone else. What are your thoughts? Give us your comments, give us your mind. And we'll also keep doing this so that as we keep getting more of their strengths and more of their weaknesses, we make them known.